You're live with the guy Monday through Friday. I got all your pop culture news, but first I got something different, a crazy conspiracy theory involving Disneyland, Anaheim, a time portal, King Arthur's Stone, and the original carousel from 1955. I'm going to lay it all out for you, and whether you believe it or not, it's not important. This is really an opportunity for Disneyland for a viral marketing campaign and to maybe go away from the decade of wokeness into their traditional history. Okay, let's get into it. Let's say hi for my producer, Nat.
Hello.
Okay, and you were in WDW Pro the other day?
Yes, so thank you so much to everybody at WDW Pro and that Park Place.
Yeah, and I kind of started out before we get into this conspiracy theory I'm going to talk about with people that are disenfranchised with Disney and the direction it's going. You covered this on WDW Pro. I thought this would be a good opening segment on showing why Disney should transition away from the woke decade to maybe its traditional past.
They should stop transitioning.
Okay, let's go into it.
So from that Park Place, longtime Disney influencer Mally Mouse announces she won't renew Disneyland annual pass over rising costs and cultural shift. Oh, and also, hello, Rafa.
Oh, that's nice. He's here. Oh, he might like today's conspiracy theory about Disneyland. Okay, let's go into this article just a little bit to kind of set up the conspiracy.
An X video posted by longtime Disney fan and annual pass holder Mally Mouse has gone viral this week. Wearing Oswald the Lucky Rabbit ears, Mally documents what she calls her last trip to Disneyland, marking the end of what she described as a lifetime tradition. In this clip that resonated with many X commenters, she noted the rising costs of trips as well as the cultural shift from the Disney company. As an avid fan of Disney and Disneyland, it takes a lot to push me away, she admitted. In the video, Mally explains that she had been a longtime Disneyland annual pass holder for most of her life, cherishing the park as a place of nostalgia. However, she cited soaring costs as the primary reason for her decision to stop visiting the park. For me, the bottom line, it's simply not worth the money, she said.
Yeah, and a lot of people are choosing to maybe go to Universal. Maybe she is as well. So Disney's really fading into the dust. They've lost the magic. They really need to try to find the magic and bring it back. But I think she's not the only person that's thinking this. All independent influencers really online are seeing Disney headed in the wrong direction, not just now, but for the past decade.
And they really try, like the ones that really do go and even are partnered in some ways with Disney, try to not, but because I watch a lot of them, and in the past recent months even, once Epic Universal opened, they started kind of talking a bit more badly about Disney. They finally admitted it.
Okay, why don't we go into the clip that we had for her? And here we go.
Yes.
I'm at Disney California Adventure right now, and let me tell you why I will not be renewing my Magic Key Pass. Now, my fiance and I have been annual pass holders for the last 3 years, but with my family, I was a pass holder for a majority of my childhood, so I've been coming to this park a long time. And I was so excited when I finally, grew up, started making my own money, and could afford to get my own annual pass and start bringing myself here, especially with my fiance, and share it with my friends. But since I renewed my annual pass last May 2024, the prices for just our tickets have gone up 30%. That's not even including all of the inflated prices for the merchandise, the food, the gasoline that it takes to get here, and the hotels around. Disney stopped caring about their fans a long time ago, and that was evident when they started getting rid of things like FastPass. God forbid guests actually have a free way to better their experience at the park, right? Gotta start charging them for that too, and thus came Genie Plus. As someone who's been coming to Disneyland, California for a majority of their life, I can tell you, the good old days were indeed the good old days. For me, the bottom line is it's simply not worth the money, especially knowing what kind of a company this is. As an avid fan of Disney and Disneyland, it takes a lot to push me away. Not to mention the fact that I don't support a majority of the bullshit that they've been doing. Hosting Pride nights, selling Pride merchandise in children's sizes, it's blatant. So to all of you who've been in my comments forever asking me, how can you still support a company like that? Well, I'm not. I'm not anymore. This is our last trip. We are taking this last trip to celebrate not coming anymore because I am
pretty good for that. And I think it has less to do with the prices, although the prices are extremely high, and she's completely right about that. And it has more to do with all the politics and messaging they've been shoving into people's faces and going in a direction a lot of parents don't want their kids to kind of be around or influenced by.
But I mean, the prices have affected like the normie consumer that doesn't even maybe notice the cultural shift. That will be the main thing that they're going to be speaking about, and also not just in Disneyland, but Disney World, all the changes that they're doing and the forcing of certain IPs and getting rid of a lot of the history is also noticeable, even if they don't even know nothing about the cultural shift.
Yeah. Okay.
And Rafa says, I'll have to watch that WDW live I missed. Thank you. And also he says, when I was little, I dreamed of going to Disneyland. Now I dream that my wife doesn't want us to go. I also used to love Disney.
That's a lot of people, especially male consumers. They've woken up to this. Female consumers are a little bit slower to come around and maybe aren't as hooked into alternative media or the messaging Disney's trying to push. Okay, let's go into this next subject matter or article here. And at night, I kind of decompress with conspiracy theories, scary stories, stuff like that to get away from politics and pop culture. But something came up last night and it kind of sparked my attention. And it wasn't the first time it came up, but because it popped back up on YouTube, it reminded me, so I rewatched it. And that was this conspiracy about a portal in Disney Anaheim that was open from 1955 to 1982. And eventually it was closed in 1982 when they moved the carousel. Now, I'm kind of going to lay this whole conspiracy theory out. Whether you believe it or not, it's really not important. I think this is an opportunity for Disney to kind of have an alternative marketing campaign outside of what they would normally do, and maybe have it look not like it's coming from them, but like it's coming from the fans. Okay, let's get a little bit into this. And this comes from a book called Latitude 33 by Walter Bosley. Here's the cover of the book here. It's been out for quite a while, actually. And this book kind of lays out this theory that the architect of Disneyland, who was C.V. Woods, actually worked for a nonprofit organization called SRI, which was involved in a lot of crazy research. If you don't know the Stanford Research Institute, kind of look into it. But Disney kind of recruited him. And he's the one that picked the location and the architectural design of this thing. Let's go into, before I get into it, maybe I watched this interview from The Confessionals, episode 613, called Disneyland Portal Device. And here's a picture of that as well. He actually does a really good interview with the author of this book, Walter Bosley. So if you get a chance to watch it and you're into conspiracy theories, kind of check it out. But the conspiracy theory kind of goes like this. They installed, if you know Disneyland, they picked the location because it's on ley lines. So these ley lines intersect, and like the low frequency electrical currents run through these ley lines, and they're amplified wherever they kind of intersect. That being said, the location was picked by C.V. Woods because of these ley lines. The shape of Disneyland is actually in a bowl. So if you go to the original Disneyland, it's kind of a bowl shape. You don't really notice it because it's slight. He placed the carousel almost directly in the center of the park where these ley lines intersected. What this would do is, because it would spin around, it would harness this electrical energy, send it up into the air, and because it was a bowl, it would come back and recycle. And a lot of people think this is the magical energy Disneyland kind of had. So it was an interesting concept. He originally had the concept because of a story he had when he was a teenager about going to Disneyland. The story is fairly interesting. I'll let him tell it. I would go watch Disneyland Portal Device, episode 613 on The Confessionals. He goes into his personal story, and it's fairly interesting. And in 1982, the carousel was then moved. It was moved into, I believe, the King Arthur section of the park. There is the Sword in the Stone now lies in Disneyland, where the center of the carousel used to be, where these ley lines intersect. A lot of people think when they moved the carousel, they put the sword in the stone there as a placeholder so they would know exactly where to put the carousel if they ever wanted to move it back. Okay, that's kind of it for that. Do watch the episode. It's very interesting if you're into conspiracies, Disneyland, things of this nature. What I was going to say about this is an opportunity to maybe go back to the original Disney, but not look like it's so orchestrated. If Disney just tries to bring back the original park, it's going to lose money. They need a viral marketing campaign. If they have a marketing campaign that is something about, like maybe they bring this guy on the podcast that wrote these books, talk about the ley lines, the original magic, about the portals, his story, things like that. It could go viral on social media, stuff like this. From there, you have a campaign called Bring the Magic Back, the carousel to the stone. So they'll bring the original carousel, which they still have, and bring it back to where King Arthur's stone is to bring the magic back to Disneyland. If this was a viral marketing campaign and then they kind of brought the carousel back, maybe they can bring back the original Fantasyland around the carousel with a lot of the original rides, characters, and things like this. Yes, this would lose money because they're not jam-packing everything strategically where it is. But Disneyland, the original Disneyland, not the California Adventures, is the smallest park. And they can start with this conspiracy fairy tale about the carousel being a portal, go from there, bringing back their original Fantasyland around it, and maybe eventually restore the entire original Disneyland park to its original 1955 look and feel and limit capacity to it. Yes, it would lose money in the short run, but in the long run, it would really lean into its history. And I think it would help Disney shift from this woke craziness it's been to something else. The other parks like Disney World is where they make most of their money. Disneyland is a much smaller park, and really leaning into your history could be a good idea.
Disney would never.
Okay, well, I'm just bringing this up, and this is okay.
But it would be a good idea because, like we were talking yesterday on WDW Pro, Universal has actually leaned into a lot of fan theories or fan created moments, like Earl the Squirrel. That was just a squirrel that got electrocuted by a Christmas tree, and now it has its own plushie. It has its own like marketing whole thing during any festivities now. So if Disney did listen to some of the fans at least, and maybe not like go full on crazy portal theory.
Well,
but
I'm not saying crazy portal theory. What I'm saying is it needs to look like it organically came from the fans through Reddit and things like that. And Disney wouldn't even really acknowledge it, but it would be a fan, what would you call it? A fan petition to move the carousel back to the stone, not necessarily saying portal. Online, people would be saying portal. Disney wouldn't really acknowledge that. It would just be this movement to get the carousel back to the stone, which would bring the park back to its 1955 original kind of layout. And then they can slowly go from there to reform the park and really clean up the park, make it pristine how it was in 1955. Just that one park, limit intake into the park so it would really be special. Up the ticket prices, maybe because you're going to have limited capacity, but it would really lean into the history, and it would allow you to slowly kind of do it from more of an organic fan base petition.
They could do a whole like bring the magic back campaign and then do a bunch of history, kind of almost like a festival. So the history of Disney, and bring back maybe the paper tickets for a few days and make it as it was when it opened. And that would actually be a good marketing campaign for a next anniversary. Just like, the way it used to be. And maybe fans could dress up as they did when it opened.
Yeah, and you can have merchandise and stuff like that. Would be vintage traditional merchandise. You could also have vintage traditional rides. This might get them out of the IP trap. After around 1985, especially in the 90s, everything they did was based upon an IP. If you know Walt's original idea, everything wasn't based around the IP. The submarine ride and a lot of other rides weren't necessarily based around IP. So you built these worlds, not necessarily trying to cash in on every little thing, and it built real magic there. So
the Nautilus. But they could actually, because now vintage is everywhere. Everybody wants to like get vintage merch. And exactly, before Disneyland, Disney World used to be its own IP. That used to be the IP. They had way more park specific merchandise. And now they've just leaned too heavily on the characters and on the stuff that they have. But they have a whole IP right there that they're wasting.
Well, and Disney is the land of magic. They have this guy that wrote this book that's about 10 years old, and he actually is a former FBI agent and an investigator. So he investigated the architect, and the architect has a lot of things that actually line up with his research on why he designed Disney with this carousel, this time portal, and other carousels in the world are actually placed on ley lines as well. In time travel movies, the carousel is often very much used as well. A lot of research from the SRI, this is Stanford Research Institute, goes into carousels or something like a carousel that would turn around in such a way to harness energy from the natural ley lines of the earth. So there is this like weird theory. It's not important that it's necessarily completely believable to the general public, but it's an alternative marketing campaign you can kind of start this whole thing with through like really a fringe group of fans. And then Disney doesn't even have to really acknowledge it, but just say, yeah, there is this petition that people want us to bring back the original carousel, which we have, back to where the stone is.
And they could very slyly acknowledge it, and like even with the carousel, do like the video marketing campaign where the carousel starts turning, and then when it kind of does a one turn or a few turns, it arrives back to like the black and white original opening day, but it's modern day people
like,
dressed
this is the
up
kind
like
of marketing
in the
you
50s
need.
and 60s.
It's something different. People are like, yeah, it's a portal, it's a crazy theory, it's all this. Nobody's saying it's real, but at least it gives some kind of lure that you can actually is going to bring you into the park. Oh, there's a time portal carousel, and then go like, I think it could really work, and I think it would be a good idea. And they need a way to bring Disney back to what it was. And this kind of brings a storyline to that. And yes, I do understand they will lose money if they make the original park how it was in 1955 because of capacity and ride issues and things like this. But they're going to have to lose money in the short term to bring the magic back to Disney in the long term, because it will benefit all their IPs going forward from that, I believe, and all their parks worldwide.
And yeah, I could just see it. Like all the merch, if they brought paper tickets back for like a few months or a month and just pretend and have people dress up, people would frame those paper tickets, like the A, B, C, D, E tickets, and then use them for the rides. And also acknowledge that maybe these past decade with Iger, maybe once he leaves, wasn't as good as it was, but it would be a very nice and like a way of honoring the original thing without really blaming Bob Iger directly. But
yeah, and I kind of left out his original story because he's a really good storyteller, the guy that told this story. He has this book, but his original story is really kind of magical. Maybe I'll tell it a little bit, but I highly recommend going to watch the interview on The Confessionals, episode 613, where he tells the story in his own words. He's a script writer, also a former FBI agent. He really tells the story well. I'll give you the gist of it. Basically, when he was a teenager living in California, he had a season pass where he had his paper ticket book. He had unlimited rides every day where he would go into the park, and him and his friends were over by the carousel, and they were riding the carousel, and it would go around, and he kept seeing this old man sitting on this bench there, and it would go around again, an old man on a bench, and it went around again, and the old man was kind of gone. So then they got off the carousel, and he seen the old man again, and they ended up sparking up a conversation, and the old man was just really excited, and he was really wide-eyed, and like he had never seen Disneyland. It was something actually completely magical, and he thought it was kind of odd because the man was so old, and the man didn't have any money, and they had one ticket left to ride a ride. So he gave him the rest of his tickets that he had unlimited passes for the rest of the day to the old man. The old man was extremely excited, said thank you, and went back into the park to ride the rides and things like that. When the FBI agent became an adult, he was stationed on a case in New York, and he used to go to this little fringe bookstore around the corner from where he worked, and he was doing this investigation, and he seen this book about ley lines and things like that. So he started reading the book, and he turned to the back cover, and it was this man he had seen at Disneyland on the carousel that he gave his tickets to. That man had always kind of stuck in his mind for some reason. And he said, that's the same man I seen at Disneyland. The thing was, the book was written in the early 1900s, 1920s, before Disneyland was even open. And he was talking about the exact ley lines Disneyland was kind of on. So that is very interesting. So did the man come through a time portal? That's his theory, which it doesn't matter if it's real or not. It could go into this marketing campaign. And if you hear this man tell his story on the Confessionals episode 613, it's rather a alluring story. It's not the fact that it's so believable, but he tells it with a certain passion, and it goes into everything else where it doesn't matter if it's believable. None of these Disney movies are exactly meant to be in reality. It's supposed to be magic. And his whole story goes into the magic of this carousel and what Disneyland once was. And if Disney can lean into bringing the magic back and omitting some of their failures, man, I think they could go back into the right historical direction Disneyland was, that Walt really imagined it on. And the great thing about this particular conspiracy, I've looked into a lot of different Disney conspiracies, and a lot of them kind of tarnish the legacy of Walt, saying, he was a Freemason, or he was this, or he was that. This particular gentleman does none of that. He actually says, I looked into Walt because of all these other conspiracies, and I don't see any truth in it. I think Walt was a good man. I think even C.V. Woods, that designed the park and designed this time machine, actually did it to bring magic to Disney and for no other reason. So the lure of this particular conspiracy does nothing to tarnish the legacy of either the architect of Disney himself, and just really feeds into the most magical place on earth, which Disney used to call itself and used to actually be, which it's kind of lost the magic.
And the carousel theory actually, sorry, I have to interrupt, because I do know quite a bit of backstory, but again, take this with a grain of salt, because I might not be remembering things 100% correctly. But the carousel specifically is very important because it is one of the things that gave Walt the original idea. He was at a park for kids, and there was a carousel, and he was sitting there on a bench, funnily enough. I think that's kind of where he's getting the story.
And a lot of people are saying this bench is where people portal through.
Because Walt was sitting on a bench watching his daughters play around, and he was like, why can't I join them in on the fun? So that's what brought the whole idea of even making a park in the first place, where both adults and children could enjoy the same things. They could use this in the marketing campaign as well, have Walt or an image of Walt sitting there on the bench, and then the carousel turns around.
Especially with AI, the way you can transition things now. And there's another part of this lure that comes in when they moved the carousel in 1982, theorizing that this is what shut the time portal, at least by the author's opinion. They had a place marker of King Arthur's sword, which they get kids to pull the sword out of the stone to place where the center of the carousel once was. So you can bring the lure of King Arthur, bring the carousel back to the stone. Things like this. There's just so many ways to kind of market this. I would like to see them do something like this. It would be something completely different than Disney's ever done. Their marketing is completely dried up. It's stale. A lot of their new IPs and everything else, they lean so hard into IPs, and this is how they're going to drive people to the park. Lean into their history, or to your history. That's how you're going to drive people to the park. Also, these alternative conspiracy theories are a great way to lean into your history. It gives you an alternate way to lean into the history, which is not unlike Disney. People want to see Disney do something different, but something that really harkens back to a time when they were the most magical place on earth.
And Walt was sitting in the Griffith Park Observatory. Griffith Park And a bench in Griffith Park.
Yeah, and it's such a shame that this carousel's sitting in the King Arthur land or the King Arthur part of the park as just this old little carousel when it was one of the original rides back in 1955, and to put it back into the center of the park and have all this lure behind it. And if you did start this conspiracy lure and then put the carousel back, a lot of people would be riding the carousel on TikTok, on YouTube. They would be talking about it. I think the marketing campaign could go viral and really have an allure of its own, so they wouldn't necessarily have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars trying to promote it themselves. Okay.
And it is called the King Arthur Carousel.
Yeah. The original carousel was one of the original rides back in 1955. It was originally manufactured for a company in Toronto, Canada.
In Philadelphia, and then it was bought from Toronto, Canada.
Yeah, and that's how it wound up in Disneyland. But the lure of this thing, when I was going into it, is immense. And I actually looked into this particular podcast. Had 35,000 views for this channel. That's very, very few views. So this particular story isn't widely known. And then I looked into the author of Latitude 33, who was interviewed in this podcast, and all the podcasts he's on, which are quite a few, have very few views. So I think this particular conspiracy theory or lure around Disneyland isn't widely known. So it's something they can kind of bring to the forefront that a lot of people won't know about, and build this whole architecture to bring the original Disneyland back. They used to steam all the sidewalks, clean up all the gum off of everything, repaint everything on a nightly basis so there was no chips on everything, and the original park was pristine. They should do that again with just Disneyland. Disneyland's small enough that you can do this, and it's going to have a major effect on all their branding worldwide.
Yep. And they also have they still have the original bench from Griffith Park. It's in Magic Moments with Mr. Lincoln, or Moments with Mr. Lincoln, whatever it's called. So they could just bring that, put it in front of the actual carousel as it stands.
And there's another part of the lure. I didn't know we were going to go this in depth into it, but there's the carousel was moved and the Sword in the Stone is there. And there's one of the benches is there that was next to the carousel. But when they put King Arthur's sword and stone to place the marker of where the carousel used to be, they put these bushes there, and people say these bushes look very strange, and they look like they intersect like a wave pattern or something like that. And they said that's to mark the direction, or that the carousel either needs to rotate or be facing if it's ever placed back there. So it's even more lure they can kind of go into, and it would be nice to see them making up their own modern fairy tale kind of based upon the history of Disney and bring it back. Okay. And also they already have California Adventures there. So if they remodel the original Disneyland back to its original state, you're still going to capitalize on California Adventures and all that stuff. And you can move a lot of your more modern stuff into that park.
But did they move the carousel? Because I think it's still sitting where it used to.
No, it's not. I looked at the entire history of the carousel.
So
they've done all the refurbishments they've done over the years to the carousel and stuff like that. It's now in a different part of the park. King Arthur's sword now lies where the carousel used to be. Yeah.
Because, I mean, they could also get people to, like, if they want to make it seem organic, just have it, like, as not a protest, but have people go into the park dressed up as, 1950s, 1960s attire, and kind of, from there, build up an actual marketing campaign of bringing the magic back, or history in Disney, or a few days of history in Disney, whatever.
Well, and also, I don't know, if when you're trying to look for water or lane lines and things like this, you have these little rods that you kind of hold. You can have people in the park around King Arthur's sword, and if these rods actually move, it's going to kind of build into the lure. Oh, these are where the ley lines intersect. This is where the carousel was. We do need to bring the carousel back there, and then you can have Disney kind of resist it, and over time, the fans break them down to bring the carousel back to the stone. I think it's just fantastic lure they can lean into. And I think the story itself is a little bit far-fetched, But man, what Disney can do with this, Disney's movies are far-fetched. Why not lean into a real life modern fairy tale? Okay.
Give the people what they want. Okay, Rafa has a lot of comments.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I was babbling on and repeating points. I just kind of watched this last night and it absolutely captivated me. So, I mean, if it captivates me, even though I don't believe in it, I'm sure it could captivate a modern audience.
And you watch conspiracy theories and scary stories to decompress, but then when I come into the room, you get scared.
Yeah, I have nightmares because I watch a lot of scary stories before bed as well, not just conspiracy theories.
Yep.
So I dream about this stuff.
And then he wakes up screaming. From Rafa, make Disneyland great again. I don't think they would use that specific marketing campaign, but they could say bring the magic back or something, bringing the magic back.
But you could have an alternative campaign. Like, again, this conspiracy, if it's a fan petition based upon this time portal from 1955 to 1982 and this carousel, you could have alternate social media campaigns that are not attached to Disney directly of, make America great again, which would appeal to conservatives, and then liberals would also have their own marketing campaign, and it would maybe be this viral thing of who loves Disneyland more, the liberals or the conservatives, blah blah blah.
I think they need to move away from politics.
Yeah,
but just have people dress up in protest and go as they used to dress when the park originally opened.
Yeah.
And people would be like, why are people dressed so weird? And then they'd ask and would become a social media thing. Rafa says, talking about merchandising, I really find it sick when they sell those Mickey plush dolls with the gay flag.
Anything they're putting these rainbow flags on is nuts.
It's as if they sold them with Christian crosses. Like they would never do that. So why do it?
Well, they're just trying to sell things and sell things and sell things, and people are not customers anymore. They view them more as consumers, and they need something to replace all this LGBTQ Disney stuff. And what better way to do it than historic Disney, 1955 Disney, and like really lean into it. But you need a fairy tale or a story of 1955 Disney of when the magic used to be there. And this is perfect. You can have a whole merchandising campaign around this, and don't necessarily make it so inorganic by pushing all this traditional Disney stuff all at once and flood the market, but have the fans start demanding it and slowly bring it out. First bring the carousel there, and then bring the area around the carousel, and then bring the magic of the full original Disney park to its original state. Do it slowly over time, like you kind of don't want to do it.
And then Rafa says, favorite underrated Disney movie? You go first.
Oh, you go first. I have to think about it.
Well, the original Parent Trap.
We're talking actual movies, not just cartoons.
I guess.
Okay.
And also, if you want to go into deep decom lore, I really do like Cadet Kelly. I don't know why, but I mean, it's not that it's a good movie. It's just I watched it as an adult as well, and in my opinion, it kind of holds up. Hilary Duff is not great at acting, honestly, but I do like Cadet Kelly. The original Parent Trap, the newer Parent Trap with Lindsay. What else?
I'm trying to think of movies. I'm going to bring up a list here because I can't even.
I like Hercules. I mean, it's not underrated, but
that was after my time.
It doesn't get spoken as much.
Oh, you know what? I was just thinking.
Oh no, Rafa says only cartoons.
Oh, only cartoons. I was going to say Cool Runnings. I absolutely loved Cool Runnings. It was completely underrated. It fits in that, other than the fact it's not a cartoon.
So cartoons.
Let me see.
When I was little, I think I watched the Aristocats enough that it drove my parents insane, but I don't like it nowadays.
Well, my grandmother used to have all the original white boxes of these Disney movies. When they would come out, she would buy them. So.
Oh God, what else? Nowadays, underrated. I mean, Steamboat Willie, but that's not underrated. That's the first one.
I did hate Fantasia, I'll tell you that.
Oh yes, I hated Fantasia, and my mom used to love it.
Oh my God! Of course, it's for older people.
It used to scare me. I never got that. Oh, I watched actually.
What was it? And this maybe kind of goes into it. A lot of people might not like this movie. When I was a kid, dinosaurs are always big. That's why even if Jurassic Park is a bad movie, it might make a lot of money just because it has dinosaurs and kids are going to pressure their parents. But A Land Before Time.
And I was actually gonna say Dinosaur. A lot of people hate that movie, but I used to really like it because it came out when I was a bit older. So Dinosaur, I would say also.
I really liked it, and that was my first real major exposure to dinosaurs, I think, in a major IP, which was A Land Before Time. And yeah, so I think, and the reason I say A Land Before Time, because I do think it was really underrated. A lot of people hated that movie, but I think it holds up over time.
I think I never watched it. Rafa says, Minor, Treasure Planet. I really do like Treasure Planet, actually. Or Black Cauldron. Treasure Planet, is that the one where they go to Atlantis? Because if it's not, then I like the one where they go to Atlantis. And then Rafa says, Fantasia is really boring. Yes. And also, if you didn't know, I actually watched it the other day because I was talking with a friend about it. Walt Disney collaborated with Salvador Dali. Yeah. And they made a short. And that it's kind of in the vein of Fantasia, where it's kind of crazy, but it got actually fully made years after they had started collaborating on it. But it is really weird. You can look it up. It's called Destino. It's on YouTube, but it's really trippy as well.
Well, if you did like the theory about the conspiracy theory about the time portal and the carousel and things like that, or the marketing campaign that Disney could lean into based upon that, let me know in the comments, because I'm actually thinking about trying to reach out to this guy and get an interview with him. He used to have his own podcast. He's been on a lot of other podcasts that are smaller channels, so I think I could potentially get him. And the story to go along with this theory was actually really, really interesting to hear from his own mouth.
And Rafa says, no, that's Atlantis. Yes, sorry. And yes, Treasure Planet is about boats that travel through space looking for treasure. Very steampunky. Yeah, now I can.
Oh, I had never seen that one.
I like Atlantis.
Okay, let's go into the actual articles of the day now, maybe.
Yes, we went 35 minutes into this. But it is a good marketing campaign.
That's what I'm saying. And there's so many different aspects that they can do this. And man, really, you can't have these stagnant, stale marketing campaigns. Oh, it's on a billboard. Oh, here's the trailer. Lean into the freaking history. Lean into some woo-woo of this guy that met a time traveler when he was on the Ferris wheel, and then the research he did when he was an FBI agent later in life.
That would be the fans. Disney would have leaned into that. But, yeah. Lean into the whole bringing the magic back and actually make it seem like, oh, it's a portal.
They're going to have to lose money if they're going to lose money. They're already losing money. So maybe intentionally losing money by downsizing the capacity of the park and the modern rides and bring it back to its original form. The original Disneyland is one of the smallest parks, so you'll lose the least amount of money, but it will have a long-term benefit on everything else they do.
It's not going to happen until they can pry Bob Iger away from his desk.
Okay.
But maybe.
Let's go into the first article here now. And again, it's dinosaurs.
From Cosmic Book News, Jurassic World Rebirth goes extinct with 80 million opening B cinema score.
Okay, and I think I was bringing you articles earlier in the week that was saying this thing was going to make 185 million, 250 million, crazy amounts of money. They tried to have a 6-day release, a 5 or 6 day release. So they were kind of trying to fudge the numbers here. The word's getting out about this movie, and surprisingly, they're lowering the box office standards. I really thought, even with bad reviews, this movie might do good because kids would pressure their parents, and that would be 2 kids, a mother and a father. That's 4 tickets for every family sold on this. I thought maybe it would still do well, but the reviews seem to really be hurting this movie right now. It's also 4th of July weekend, so that's a big weekend for movies.
So lining right up with estimates, Jurassic World Rebirth is on track for a franchise low opening, as its 3-day is currently only 80 million. The cinema score also becomes known, and it's not good with a B, which is usually a score associated with low budget horror movies. It's also the second lowest cinema score of the entire franchise and only beats Jurassic Park 3's B.
Well, and has a 51 by critics, which was surprising, and 73 from an audience score. I thought the audience score would actually be lower because a lot of the independent critics that would be considered audience by this standard are saying how horrible this movie is, but they give it a 73. The legitimized critics gave it a 51. So this is surprising because usually they alter the actual critic score by paying off critics and things like this.
And usually that's why if it's a bad movie, the critic score will be really high and the audience score will be really low. And here it's the opposite, but apparently it's still not a good movie.
Yeah.
The Rotten Tomatoes audience score also comes in at a cool 73%, lower than Dominion, while the critic score is at a rotten 51. Regarding the Jurassic World Rebirth 5-day Hollywood weekend estimates, though the 3-day 80 million lands exactly where estimated, sites like Deadline are offering the 5-day will be higher at 133.5, while the previously estimated 120 to 130.
There was estimates of over 200 million because we've been covering this for a while. So now they're trying to tamper it down by saying the original estimates were between 120 and 130. That was never the case. This is already, if it hits 133.5, that's way below what they expected for this movie.
And again, I mean, yes, also the storyline, but the fact that it's a girl boss movie, I think, was also affecting it. Even maybe like I don't fully know the full story. I kind of watched Culture's review on it when I was on WDW Pro.
He hated this movie as well.
But I wonder if it would be so bad if the scientist guy was a lady, was Scarlett, and then the Scarlett's role went to another guy, maybe a Chris Hemsworth. Would the story maybe even that way make a bit more sense?
Well, I think you could at least not have had the girl boss backlash to it. So if you just made an average movie that had a bunch of dinosaurs in it, it would probably at least succeed because it would really appeal to kids, and kids would force their parents to go. But when it's having this much backlash in the independent media, parents are like, no, we'll take you to see How to Train Your Dragon, which is close enough to a dinosaur movie, which will please the kids. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go into the next story.
Yeah, I mean, you have dinosaurs. Just show dinosaurs doing crazy stuff and eating people, and people will go watch that. You don't actually need a full story, in my opinion. Dinosaurs scare me. Okay, from Deadline, Lilo and Stitch.
Everything scares you because you won't go on the patio because heights scare you.
Yeah, I am scared of heights. Which is related to dinosaurs. I'm scared of expanse. So like the universe scares me, the deep ocean scares me, or like makes me feel weird.
You sound like
dinosaurs
progressive.
When they're very big.
You sound like a progressive. You're scared of everything.
But these are real fears. From Deadline, well, not dinosaurs. From Deadline, Lilo and Stitch, Hula Dance's past Minecraft movie as Disney pick becomes highest grossing MPA movie year to date with 957 million plus worldwide.
Well, yeah, and they kept Lilo and Stitch long enough to beat Minecraft. And it's beat Minecraft, but the question is, can it get itself over the finish line, which is $1 billion. That's what Disney wants. I don't know if they're going to be able to get it. I almost think they come out with a secondary marketing campaign to rewatch Lilo and Stitch to get it over that billion mark, because it may be the only movie that crosses $1 billion this year. And it is so close right now. I know they want that for their next quarterly earnings call because they do have a lot of bad news on the horizon. Maybe they should put the time portal theory and the marketing campaign in their next quarterly earnings call, because I think it might get people excited. But
I wonder why they didn't do anything with the Disney hotel they have in Hawaii. I know they're trying to move away from the whole tourism is affecting Hawaii thing, but I mean, why didn't they do like a contest where you get tickets to go to the hotel if you buy the tickets to the movie?
I mean, because they have a bunch of DEI hires that can't think of original marketing campaigns. Their original Imagineers are over at Universal, and they have nobody with any good ideas for IPs, for new storylines, let alone what they should be doing for their promotions. I mean, I just came up with the best promotional campaign in history based upon a freaking time portal.
Okay, don't pour so many flowers on yourself.
Disney's more than welcome to steal it. So Disney's the only one that can steal that idea because it wouldn't work for anybody else because it's based upon Disney lore and history. Okay, let's go into South Park.
Yeah, they should have just done. Why are they so dumb? They could have just done win a trip to Aulani in Hawaii when you buy tickets to Lilo and Stitch.
And then have Lilo and Stitch at the freaking hotel when they're there, and have a whole Lilo and Stitch theme thing.
It does have a Lilo and Stitch theme thing. But
lean into it with their marketing campaign.
Because maybe they did do that, and I just didn't hear about it. But
yeah, but if you didn't hear about it, that means they didn't market it very well.
No. Okay, next.
And I did love that girl in that Lilo and Stitch movie now that I'm seeing her. And Lilo and Stitch, the entire thing was great, except for the two aliens in human form. I think they needed different actors, but...
and the ending, a lot of people were upset about.
Yeah.
Which I understand, but all in all...
Okay, let's go into Ryan Reynolds here. Oh, wait. Let's go into this one. Sorry, this one was before.
So from BBC, White House to host UFC fight, Trump announced.
And this is fantastic. I haven't read this article yet. I seen it and I was like, we're grabbing this for the show. I absolutely love UFC. I used to teach jiu-jitsu. I used to do Muay Thai. So I'm a big UFC fan. We know Trump is. Where in the hell is he going to host it at the White House? I know they were building a concrete.
The lawn?
Well, yeah, they were building a concrete padding and take out some of the flower beds. I would love to see this. This would just be great for fans, for audiences, for everything. People might say it's going to disrespect the White House, but I think having a big flagpole event at the White House like this would be fantastic.
Maybe don't do it at the White House, do it outside. Like where they had that stage for the military parade.
Wherever they do it, I am pretty excited about this. This is a great marketing campaign, not just for Trump, not just for the White House, but also for the UFC. Trump doesn't have to get reelected, so he can do things like this. And I don't think there's going to be the same amount of backlash because they're not going to try to talk as much shit on things like this in order to not get him reelected because he's not up for reelection. So just have fun with your last hurrah here. He's getting pretty old. He's not going to have much left after this presidency.
I think it's going to anger a lot of people. But the White House will host a UFC bout next year as part of events to mark 250 years of American independence. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the event will be a championship fight with an audience of 20,000 to 25,000.
Wow, where are they fitting these people? That's the size of a small stadium.
A few days ago. So let's see if it says. Because I think he only said it, but he says we're going to have incredible events, some professional events, some amateur events, Dana White said.
They should have a little wrestling event with Hulk Hogan there, or at least have a Hulk Hogan in the crowd. That would be great.
Addressing the crowd during an appearance at the Iowa State Fairgrounds in Des Moines, Trump said, "Does anybody watch UFC? The great Dana White, we're going to have a UFC fight. We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this on the grounds of the White House. We have a lot of land there." Following the Trump's announcement, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the plans on X, writing, "It's going to be epic."
Yeah, and I don't know the layout of the White House lawn and their grounds and stuff, so maybe they have more land than I thought. I just think of the White House, and I don't think there's room there, but maybe there's more land in the back or the front or somewhere I don't know about. That being said, the UFC... a couple years ago, they got really close. They got into talks with the Coliseum in Greece to host a UFC event that was going to pit Elon Musk against Mark Zuckerberg. They were both training at the time, so I was actually kind of
so dumb.
It's such.
That was so dumb.
It's so funny. I wanted to see it, and the fact that it was going to be in the Coliseum at least would have set the precedent for the UFC to go back to the Coliseum for a big event, which would have been fantastic. I would have loved to see a heavyweight championship fight with like John Jones or somebody else in the Coliseum. That would have been fantastic. But even Musk and Zuckerberg, it would have been a hell of a time to watch.
I would feel like it's a bit of a disrespect to the Coliseum, but
oh, whatever. Okay, you also thought it was disrespectful of me talking time portals in Disney.
yes.
But the marketing campaign's genius.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from the marketing campaign angle, or at least something they could do, it is a good idea. The actual conspiracy theories I'm not into, but also happy.
It's not a conspiracy when it's real.
Happy 4th of July to our American friends.
Oh yeah, happy 4th of July to everybody in the good old US of A. Okay, let's go into Ryan Reynolds now.
So from The Hollywood Reporter, Ryan Reynolds will invade Nathan's hot dog eating contest on ESPN with Costco's former CFO. Ryan Reynolds, Mint Mobile, has hired the former executive who kept Costco's hot dog combo at $1.50 as the company's anti-inflation officer for a TV ad that will air during the July 4th event, so they might be there now.
Yeah, and I can't remember if Costco is the biggest hot dog manufacturer in the United States or the world. I believe it was the world. That being said, this is perfect for Ryan Reynolds. He needs to try to distance himself from this whole scandal and his wife and everything else. And Nathan's hot dog eating contest is hilarious. And the fact that it's on ESPN, a little bit of comic relief, Ryan Reynolds, it fits right into his kind of wheelhouse of alternative media publicity things. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a great move from Ryan.
And I think, Joey Chestnut returned finally to one of his origins, which is the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. So the world famous competitive eater is back as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
they had
Nathan's
banned
has a huge reputation, especially for hot dog eating contests or food eating contests. But the fact when it got picked up by ESPN, this is not like he's just going to do a little hot dog eating contest in New York, how it used to be with a lot of fanfare. It gets televised live across the world through ESPN. So would give him a lot of exposure and kind of like endear himself to the fan base again in an alternative way.
Yeah, eating contests really gross me out. Because they soak them in water.
Well, I gross you out when I eat, so
That's
I can
it.
only imagine.
Yeah. Later today, Nathan's will host its annual 4th of July hot dog eating competition at New York's Coney Island Boardwalk. The event will, as usual, be televised live by ESPN.
Oh, wait,
this year,
what did it say about Mexico there?
where?
Ryan Reynolds has made his mark.
He owns stakes in a soccer team in Mexico, a Formula One team, and a SailGP team.
Oh, okay.
And Wrexham AFC, which is a football.
Well, on his
Traditional
next movie when it's released, he should bring out the Mexican team to the movie premiere, things like that. Lean into stuff like that.
And this year will mark the return of hot dog eating champ Joey Chestnut, who skipped last year's event due to a sponsorship deal with Impossible Foods.
The sponsorship deals of these food eaters.
But ESPN viewers will also get a heaping helping of Reynolds, who will appear in multiple TV spots during the contest alongside one of the hot dog world's biggest celebrities, Richard Galanti. Galanti, of course, is the former CFO of Costco, the wholesale club that has sold a $1.50 hot dog and soda combo for the past 40 years without raising the price once. Galanti was one of the Costco executives that moved earth and heaven to keep it that way.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see him bring in a couple of the big strongmen and pit them in a head-to-head competition for this hot dog eating thing, because the big strongman from the UK, who is now retired, but he's still huge, is always on YouTube, and he's doing these food eating competitions and stuff like this. And then you could get the Mountain from Game of Thrones, who's very well-known strongman, and make it the battle of the strongmen. So it's just not the one hot dog eating contest, but it has a lot more celebrity in it. So maybe next year they can steal that idea from me. Okay, let's go. I feel like I'm a marketing executive today. Let's go into South Park here now.
From Deadline, South Park creators slam proposed Paramount Skydance merger, saying it's effing up their show.
Yeah, and they don't like this merger. There must be some executives who are frowning upon South Park, and because South Park calls everybody out. So I wonder if, I don't know, but I know they've crossed Kathleen Kennedy a lot of times, and a lot of other executives they've kind of called out. So they've probably pissed off somebody in one of these companies.
South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone are, to put it mildly, not happy about the proposed merger between Comedy Central parent Paramount Global and Skydance Media. In a blistering statement in response to the show's season 27 premiere date change announced earlier today, Parker and Stone wrote on X, "This merger is an S show and it's effing up South Park. We are at the studio working on new episodes and we hope fans get to see them somehow." So maybe season 27 will premiere on Comedy Central. It was going to premiere on July 9th.
Yeah, so they're already moving around the dates. A lot of strange things are happening. These guys from South Park, and South Park in general is a big enough property. They've made enough of money. They have FU money at this point. So they're going to put what they want in these episodes. And if the executives don't want to air them, because they must have in the South Park contract final rights to like put whatever they want in these things, because South Park is constantly pushing the boundaries to kind of what's acceptable on mainstream TV and stuff like that. Yeah, so I don't think they're going to bend for any new executive or any new company.
Well, they're angry because the premiere got delayed.
Yeah,
because of the whole tensions.
I think there's more than that behind it, especially with a headline like that. Well, with one of the creators of South Park saying that, there's probably other tensions behind the scenes. Okay, let's go into the next article, which is going to be The Last of Us, which I think Last of Us Season 2 should be the last of that particular TV show.
It's because I've been bouncing them around between HBO and others. Sorry, I was trying to figure out why they were angry. From Variety, Last of Us, shocker, Neil Druckmann exits HBO series ahead of Season 3.
Okay, and it's less about Neil Druckmann here, and I kind of wanted to bring up the conversation of The Last of Us Season 3. Season 2 really fell off in the ratings as that thing went. They had killed off Pedro Pascal. As much as I don't like him, he was the highlight to that series. The ratings even had a little bit of a bump when they brought him back in flashbacks and memories and things like that. They're not going to have him in Season 3. They really have nobody else but Potato Head to kind of carry Season 3. So I don't know what they're going to do here, but let's just end the series now.
Do you want me to read into it?
Yeah, let's read a little bit into it.
Neil Druckmann, has announced he is stepping away from The Last of Us TV series at HBO. I've made the difficult decision.
One second. If you haven't liked and subscribed, I'm 3 away from 250. That's 1/4 away to my goal of 1,000 subscribers so we can monetize. So if you're watching and not subscribed, please subscribe now. Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
I've made the difficult decision to step away from my creative involvement in The Last of Us on HBO. Druckmann said in a statement posted to the official Instagram account for Naughty Dog, the PlayStation-owned video game studio behind Last of Us franchise. With work completed on Season 2 and before any meaningful work starts on Season 3, now is the right time for me to transition my complete focus to Naughty Dog and its future projects, including writing and directing our exciting next game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, along with my responsibilities as studio head and head of creative. Co-creating the show has been a career highlight, he continued. It's been an honor to work alongside Craig Mazin to executive produce, direct, and write in the last 2 seasons. I'm deeply thankful for the thoughtful approach and dedication the talented cast and crew took to adapting Last of Us Part 1 and the continued adaptation of Last of Us Part 2. In addition, Hallie Gross has also announced she will no longer be working on the HBO series because it did so bad in the second season. I think they're just trying to distance as much as they can.
Yeah, well, he's trying
he was a creator.
He's trying to retreat back to the video game industry. The video game industry is really in bad shape right now as well. So I don't know. He may go back there if he makes a shit video game. He's now burned himself on both sides of this coin. But
I mean, he kind of happened with Part 2 already.
At least with video games, you can kind of fade into the background, and people aren't always looking at the creators and things as much as with movie series. What?
He became like really famous because of Last of Us, but.
Oh yeah, no, I'm aware of that, but with video games, you're really having to put yourself forward and your name forward in order to get a lot of praise or a lot of criticism. With movies, people go really digging into the movies, who's making these things and stuff like that.
Series. Next.
Okay, let's go into AMC theaters, and we talked a little bit about this last night.
So from Variety, AMC Theaters is putting more commercials before screenings. It cheapens the movie-going experience and hurts the film business.
Yeah, and I put this in here because I didn't have a show yesterday, but the day before I had said that the movie industry is desperate for new avenues to bring profit in. And I joked that they would start putting commercials in the middle of the actual movie. This isn't quite that, but they are going to start putting more at the beginning before the show starts. So that's interesting. Also, I could see him inserting an intermission break so they can have more commercials and stuff like that in the future, because DVDs and things like that are no longer driving profits because there are no more DVDs. So you basically have the theater and then you have streaming, and how you're going to shove in advertising around those two sectors. So if they can shove in more advertising around these movies, I'm sure they're going to want to figure it out. If they do put intermission breaks, people are going to be pissed on an 1.5-hour movie, so that maybe that will extend the playtime of a lot of these movies. But even now, the attention spans are a lot shorter, so I don't know if people are going to want to see a longer movie.
Yeah. Do you want me to read into it? Or?
Yeah, read a little bit, and then we'll go into the last 2 stories here.
So we come to this place for magic, Nicole Kidman famously tells AMC Theater patrons in a viral promotion for the chain. But starting this week, audiences will have to wade through a lot more shilling for everything from fast food to fresca before they experience any cinematic stardust. Indeed, AMC's decision to increase the number of ads before screenings epitomizes the concept of short-term gain in exchange for long-term pain. It provides the cinema giant with much-needed revenue at a time when the exhibitor is strapped for cash and laboring under nearly $4 billion in debt, and it comes as Hollywood is still struggling to consistently produce movies that people want to see.
Yeah, and a lot of analysts are saying within the next 20 years, theaters are going out of business. I had a different take on it. I think there's streaming wars going on, and there's going to be a consolidation of streaming services with not movie-first companies. What do I mean by that? Apple is a tech company that's in the movie business, so they can finance their movie division through other things, and they can lose hand over fist money in an attempt for monopolization of streaming. Also, Amazon is another company that most of the revenue comes outside of their movie division, so they're able to overfinance. Netflix would be the other big streaming service. I would expect studios and other streaming services to be consolidated under those three banners. Once they do that, I think those three streaming services may go into business with each other and start buying up theaters, because they'll be able to have enough content. They'll have exclusive rights to put only their movies into those theaters, which will kind of monopolize the theater industry. That's how I kind of see theaters kind of surviving it, honestly. Okay, let's go into the last two, and they're interrelated because they're similar, and I know you're going to talk about Charlize Theron later. Theron, you're better at saying their names than I am.
From Variety, Olivia Munn disagreed with a male director, says he retaliated by telling a movie studio she's combative and set. He wanted to ruin my chances of getting acting roles.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting. I really liked Olivia Munn when she was on the video game channel. After she left, there's something about her really annoyed me, but she's come out with some statements over the past year and a half, 2 years since she's become a mother, which she really shows she has her head on her shoulders a little bit. So let's actually see what's going on with this particular case.
Olivia Munn revealed on an episode of Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert podcast that a director she worked with on HBO's The Newsroom tried to ruin her career by preventing her from landing a movie role. The director, who remained unnamed, told the studio that Munn was really combative on set after the two shared disagreements on the set of the Aaron Sorkin created television series. There was a storyline where my character and Tom Sadaki's character are dating and falling in love. Munn explained the director kept trying to force me to carry that storyline only on my side. He's like, can you look out at him and smile? And I'm like, why is she busy doing this? Or can you stop and snuggle up to him or flirt with him? Or can you give him a kiss? And I'm like, this is in the middle of working.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Munn later heard from someone on her team that this director was telling people at a film studio that she was difficult to work with. I was the 1 year on the 1 year line.
Oh, let's just hold this right here, because I'm kind of trying to figure out what's going on here. And I know Olivia Munn was on the video game channel, and she was completely anti-woke, and she endeared herself to a largely male audience that followed her into the movie industry, which she was able to kind of catapult into. That being said, she did quite a few woke roles and things like that. So I don't know if people were too impressed with that era of her career, but since she's had a kid, again, she's very anti-progressive, anti-woke, and seems to really have her head on her shoulders. So maybe the director really had a personal beef with her and her persona and some of her.
But I mean, that also happens to male actors. We see all these female actors, Scarlett Johansson also coming out and saying, oh, I was objectified. And Charlize Theron saying, oh, I went to a movie director's house and bad things happened.
She's less saying that she was objectified and more saying that this director went behind the scenes and was saying she was combative on set and things like that.
Yeah, but can you imagine how the story would be twisted if it was a male actor saying that a female, like Kathleen Kennedy or somebody, was going against them and trying to get them out of the movie business? They would be completely burned in the media. But now because it's women complaining about, oh, all these male directors are... Like, that's what happens also to male actors with male directors.
Yeah, but there's been some incidents where she's spoken out and she really didn't put people's names in there. So I don't know. I'm persuaded a little bit because of her past that maybe to believe her a little bit, but maybe not.
But it's also a great way for anybody to say, oh, I don't get good roles because someone's retaliating against me, instead of because I don't know how to act or because I'm not good to work with. Okay,
let's go into the last article here. And this was, I think you're going to cover this more in depth tonight, but
not this part, but yeah. From Deadline, Charlize Theron recalls scumbag director incident and why she won't reveal name. I will not let a mother F with me any day of the week.
And this is crazy. I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to tell the whole story here.
That's literally what
Like
Olivia Munn just did.
Like, just if you're not going to
You're
name
defending
names
her.
and you're not going to talk about it, then don't talk about it.
That's what Olivia Munn did. She said she didn't want to name the person either.
Okay, let's go into this here.
Then you defended her. Charlize Theron
Yeah,
is...
but I like Olivia Munn a little bit
I
more
don't
than
like
I like her.
Charlize Theron is recalling an incident she had with a scumbag director early on in her career. The Old Guard 2 star made an appearance on Call Her Daddy, which I will talk about tonight, where she explained why she won't reveal the name of the director. Theron first opened up about the incident in 2019 when she appeared on The Howard Stern Show. She said she went to the director's house for an audition and he allegedly greeted her in his pajamas and put his hands on her knees. The Oscar-winning actress said she got up and left at that moment.
And let's hear the rest of it here.
I didn't know what the audition process looked like, Theron said. Sorry. I didn't know how you went about being an actor. My agency said there was a casting for this movie and you'll have to go on a Saturday night. It was this director's house. The little voice inside me said, this isn't right. But then the other voice in me said, well, I don't know. Maybe it is right. Theron said she hasn't outed the director because I don't want the story to be about him, adding, it's not because I'm protecting him or anything. He got nervous for a bit. She said he heard me tell the story and he knew it was about him. And he wrote me a pretend letter trying to explain his behavior and how must have misunderstood it, which is classic, isn't it? It's so classic. Theron continued, I don't even effing say your name because you know you're the scumbag.
Okay, so that's good for this. But what do you think about this?
I think that all these ladies are trying to continue with the Me Too movement that is already past its time, and like nobody believes them, especially if they don't.
Well, and that's the problem with any accusations, even if they're legitimate now. The Me Too movement kind of destroyed a lot of this. Also, Hollywood is going to be thinning out with AI, other things. There's a lot of downsizing. Movie budgets are going to have to come way down. People are going to feel rejected, like, oh, why aren't I getting roles? But Hollywood is going through a major transition and a major downsizing. So you're going to have a lot of people trying to make accusations or tell stories, things like this, to stay in the headlines, stay relevant, or pressure studios into giving them roles.
It's a way to gain also publicity. Like,
yeah,
we wouldn't be talking about Charlize Theron if she hadn't gone on that podcast and said a bunch of stupid things.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in today. Every day, Monday through Friday. Next week, Nat's going to be gone. So I'm going to, I don't know, hopefully we can get her to run the show remotely because it's going to be a shit show if I have to run it. So don't expect too much from next week's show if it's me up by myself. That being said, if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. I'm almost to 250 subscribers. That's 1/4 of my goal of 1,000 subscribers so I can monetize. And if you did like the theory about the marketing campaign for Disney and the Time Portal, please let me know, even if you're watching this on replay. Okay.
And we'll see you tonight with our politics show. Thank you, Rafa, for all the comments. And Rafa says, see you later, and I wish the best to your family. Thank you so much, because I'll be gone taking care of somebody. So have a good day. We'll see you tonight.